So, what did you guys get me for the anniversary?
Well, oh wait, no, half a sec. Let me double check.
We got you another choice of movie.
Oh yeah.
So for it's our first anniversary, and that's the paper year.
Okay.
What a shitty anniversary gift. Oh, year 2 is cotton. Then we have leather. Then fruit or flowers.
Wait, what is this
so
list?
I'm anniversary gifts by year, Jeff.
This
Who's
is going to be a
supplying-
good
Wait,
Hold on,
warm-up
wait.
for
I
you.
am so confused here. What does the paper year mean?
It means you're
means that you
supposed
give
to
them
gift
paper.
paper.
Do people want
Like
paper?
something made out of paper or something
Yeah,
to do with
it's-
paper.
Like,
Unlike
you
the
write a poem or
21st
something?
through the 24th,
Maybe,
where it was
yeah.
fire, water, air, and stone as a theme, paper, you're supposed to give paper.
Yeah.
If you give somebody a gift of
So
fire,
this'll-
that could be very dangerous. And it sounds threatening, actually.
It's what people
am
keep
just-
doing in
I'm
California.
a fan of year 5, which is wood.
Wood.
You're gonna give them wood.
Only on the anniversary, really?
Wow. Only on the 5th
Yeah.
anniversary. This is a good
I'm not
warm.
a hedonist.
No, this is a good warm up for next month when it's your actual anniversary.
It is a good warm up.
What paper gift did you get me?
I got you this this court summons I have on my desk.
Ooh.
Oh, no
It's for when I got
way!
pulled over for expired tags on Valentine's Day. Nina and I were driving home, and I got pulled over on Valentine's Day. I wasn't speeding, and he definitely couldn't see that my tags were expired because they're in the front of my car.
I think they can
But yeah.
run your plate and see in their system.
Apparently, he was tailing behind me for a long time, so fuck that guy. But what
So
ended
he
up
just
happening?
expected you to have something, I guess.
Oh, was the thing. I didn't know what was going on. What ended up happening, though, lucky me, is he's like, yeah, plead innocent, and we'll go to trial, and I'll make sure it works out for you.
Huh?
And then
He could have just not
I got
given
my
you the
court
ticket.
summons.
What?
No. See, here's the thing. I got my no. There is no defense. You're right. So I get my court summons, and I'm going and I'm checking online like the day before to make sure of where I need to go. And I found my case, and it was marked canceled because the the trooper didn't want to show up, so
Right.
they just dropped the whole case. So I got no fine, no nothing at all, because I mailed him a copy of my registration and my tags and stuff, and was like, "Hey, I got it done." And he's
Ah.
like,
Oh,
"I won't
that's
go to
cool.
court." So
Good
I
on-
automatically won. So that's
Good
what I
on
got
that
you,
cop for
Emma,
doing the bare minimum
that
of
gift.
human decency.
How about you, Jeff? Did you get Emma anything nearly as cool as my story about a piece of paper?
Yeah. What did you get me, Jeff?
I wrote a full page of notes about this week's movie. That's
Oh,
paper.
wow.
nice! That's exciting.
They're not great
Look at
notes, but
My notes weren't great either, but I feel like that's well, we'll talk about this in a
We'll
minute.
talk about
We'll get
notes
to
and
it.
all of
We'll
that.
get
We'll
to
get
it.
there.
Now, Emma, the big question here then is, what did you get the podcast for its anniversary?
wait, no.
got ours
What
for
did
you.
you? What did you get Nina for the podcast anniversary? Now,
A disease.
Yeah, I got her sick. It's not paper. So I'm probably jumping a few years ahead. Let's see.
Could have been a
What
paper-born
could this
illness.
be?
an illness, huh? That's kind of like giving
Um,
her a dog, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call this the
bunch of small
52nd
dogs.
anniversary, which is bath or spa (parentheses theme).
Huh?
We'll call it bath themed because she took a shower.
I feel like that's not great for after 52 years together. That's
Honestly,
this
the
is a
fact that
weak
electronics is a gift for your 44th anniversary.
No
I'm sorry,
way.
44'd.
be too old
It's
for that.
44'd.
44.
Yeah. Oh, what a good typo. Every other year is correct, but not 44'd.
Okay.
Electronics as a theme.
That's just odd.
That's super
Chari-
odd.
This is a
Charity
weak
is the
list.
theme for your 59th anniversary. It's charity.
What?
We need like an updated wedding anniversary.
Wait. So what's the 10-year one?
The 10 year? Oh, the 10 year is aluminum.
What the fuck?
I love how like it's the first like 15
Nothing shows
years.
love like aluminum.
It all makes sense, right? Well, here's the thing. The first 15 years, it's classic old school stuff. But then, like, on the 18th year, it's appliances. And it's like, okay. Then there's jade, china, fire, theme, water, theme.
Wait, you're supposed
air,
get
theme,
your partner
stone,
all of
theme.
China?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's so weird.
I know, it's
That's
a lot,
I'm
impossible.
still
man.
hung up on the aluminum
It's an intense
thing. Like,
20th
what?
anniversary.
Is that why
31st is
China
travel.
is communist? Because it belongs to everybody.
Our China. It's better than the 38th anniversary, though, which is luck as a theme. I don't get that. Hey, baby, for our 32nd anniversary, we're going to... Or, sorry, 38th anniversary, we're going to Vegas.
I feel like the move is to like have an irony gift of what the year is supposed to be. Like for your first anniversary, it's paper, so you literally just get them like printer paper. But then you get them like as a joke, but then like you get them a real gift too. But it's not paper. Surprise, bitch. Bet you thought you saw the last of me. It's me again, 2 weeks in a row. Welcome back to Casual Obsession. It's me, Emma, your host, again. Now, what I imagine you're thinking, what did we do to deserve such a gift?
I was thinking that too.
The answer is, because it's our anniversary episode.
It's our anniversary episode. And to celebrate,
I'm here.
We gave Emma another movie.
Yeah. No, what was the... Because we didn't talk
Nina.
about... Yeah, Nina's also not here. So if you want to apply to be our fourth co-host, because Nina's no longer allowed, you can send those applications to @CasualHorrorPod on Twitter. But what was the reason for me having another episode? Because we didn't talk about it on the podcast. But it's like we're starting our Halloween marathon series, and for some reason you guys were like, let's let Emma have another pick.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah, because we're going to be watching old 80s slashers, and we know how you hate those.
I do. It's true. But you know what I don't hate? Myself. Hi, I'm Emma. I'm the host for today, along with my co-hosts.
Nina, that's your cue.
No, Nina's not here.
Thrown off our rhythm.
I'm Nina. And I'm Noah.
That was a terrible impression of me. And I'm Jeff.
It's sick Nina. It's Nina with a stuffed nose.
Oh,
yeah. I can't believe you're so rude, Jeff.
That was a cough. Okay. I thought it was I thought you were attempting a cute chuckle.
Well, okay then. So, it's just the three of us this episode, and today we are talking about the movie The Mortuary Collection. This movie was released in 2020, and
actually I think it was 2019. I saw a lot of conflicting dates, but I did see 2019. I apologize. Just wanted to toss that one in there.
Huh.
Are you interrupting me?
Maybe it hit like the festivals
my
first, and
intro.
Hit the theaters later.
No, that was actually Jeff.
According to Google, it says 2020. So that's what we're going with.
Wow.
That's probably when it had its like theatrical release, but it hit a couple of festivals before that or something.
Maybe. But yeah, so we're talking about the Mortuary Collection, which is an anthology horror movie, which this is my first anthology horror film.
Ooh. Oh, it's your first one?
Perhaps. Yeah.
I know it's the first
Jeff
one of the
and
podcast,
Noah.
but...
Yeah, perhaps Jeff and Noah have seen some other ones beside this and will have some prior experience and can compare this to other anthology films. But we're mainly going to be talking about this one.
Yeah.
I've seen trailers for it, and I'd heard decent things, and I wanted just like a fun kind of chill movie for us to talk about after I've been giving us such bangers as The Wailing, Gonjam, and The Endless, and all of my classics.
Of course.
So
Oh yeah.
this movie definitely gives me kind of like a Goosebumps plus vibe of
Okay.
kind like, you know what I mean? It's kind of like
I can get that.
yeah. It's like kind of got the atmosphere, the aroma of like a Goosebumps like movie or book, but it's like a little bit more like
it's
dark
like it's
and edgy
dark, but
kind
it's
of.
not quite taking itself too seriously.
Yeah. But this movie takes place in a small town in America. It's not specific on the year. It's very much kind of a timeless kind of story, and that really you could imagine it taking place at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about this mortuary and this mortician who takes on a new apprentice after a little boy's death. And he's kind of like showing her the ropes. And while they're going, he's telling different stories of different bodies that he's kind of taken care of during his time as the mortician. And the two of them talk about, like, have a little back and forth about what makes a story compelling. Um, and it's kind of like their relationship as they're telling these stories. And um Noah, why don't you tell us what like the critical reception of this movie was?
Did
So I'm
people
looking
like
at
this
this
movie?
and it wildly swings both ways.
That makes sense.
Because I was looking into well, let me give the numbers first. IMDb has it at a 6.4, Rotten Tomatoes at a 95, Metacritic at a 69, nice.
Nice.
Letterboxd at a 3.3 out of 5, so a 66, right?
Okay.
And I'm looking at this and it's like really consistently in the 60s. And then Rotten Tomatoes, obviously it's a different type of scoring system,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
like 95 is really high.
That is pretty high.
That's just a metric of how many people like
Liked
thought it was like good or enjoyable. Not
Yeah.
so much
Mhm.
like where they scale it on a rating of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
think
well,
like their
that's
critical
what I was
consensus
trying
is
to,
still only like a 7 or something. I think I saw that somewhere.
Oh, okay.
But I
see.
mean, I
Yeah,
understand.
audience score 70%. Tomato
Yeah.
meter is 95. Tomato meter is such a stupid word.
What is the difference between the audience score and the tomato meter?
Audience score is what the audience rated it. Tomato meter is whether or not people said yeah or no.
Oh,
Mhm.
okay. So the
Which I
audience
totally
score
get.
is kind of the more important number, right?
Kind of ish.
Depends. Oh shoot, RogerEbert.com rated this one a 2.5 out of 4.
Why do they use out of 4?
I don't know.
Because
I think
Roger Ebert was a pretentious ass and he didn't want to go by the same 5-star system as everybody else.
apparently, thanks Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah.
You leave
But that would
Siskel
put that
out
at
of
about a
this.
60 as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then I was looking a little closer, right? Because I'm like, well, these are a lot of like really like top-loaded scores on some things, and then a lot of really like middling things in other areas. So I'm like, okay, well maybe some of the people that I follow have seen this movie. So I popped onto Letterboxd on the actual movie page, and I see 2 people who I follow have rated this a 5 out of 5. Like, saying that this is one of the best new movies that they've seen. And that it's one of their new like Halloween like background mainstays that they're gonna have it on all the time.
It's a really good like
can back
Halloween
that.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anthologies in general are really good for that kind of thing, but this one especially has the right atmosphere for it.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta be honest though, it did surprise me. I was not expecting that kind of a huge reaction to it, because I don't think anthologies tend to do well in
Like critically.
Even in public regard a lot of times. I
A
mean,
lot of people don't take
outside
them
of the
seriously.
obvious issue that there's, the through line plot is so hard to follow. It's almost like there isn't one. Outside of that problem, I had nothing else to say. I just wanted to say. But no, it's like there's always going to be the weak one that people will remember way more vividly than the 3 other really good parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I don't know.
I mean,
I feel like that's what happened to me in this one too, because I sit at a happy 6.5 on this.
Okay, yeah.
Where I don't think I would ever watch it again, but I would never be mad to see it on in the background as something that I'm familiar enough with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get that. I think a lot of the reviews I've watched and a lot of the videos I've seen where people are regarding this really highly, it's because like you said, anthology films typically aren't considered very well, or they're not really well done, or they're a bit sloppy. They don't kind of like break out into like super hype territory of like everybody's like, oh, you got to go see this movie. But and I think that's led to a long time. Like I was reading an interview with the director where he was like talking about kind of why he thinks anthology movies kind of provide like a good service to the movie making industry, and like why he enjoys it as a form of medium.
Mm-hmm.
But he was talking about like for a long time anthology movies haven't been done like incredibly well, and people just kind of like write them off, and so he just wanted to give it a good earnest effort of doing like a solid like anthology movie. And I think he accomplished that. This is really well done. It's well made. Like the story may not be like the most incredible thing or the most original thing, but the special effects, the makeup, the music, like all of the different kind of pieces of this movie I think are really, really well done. And just like the visual look of it is really good. And it's just like a fun movie. So I would give it like an 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I've been kind of having a hard time putting a number to it because I want to rate it well because it's really enjoyable, it's well executed, it's a solid anthology movie, but at the same time, like I don't want to give it a high number because it's not like good like something like The Wailing or something, right? But
yeah.
But that was the issue I was having too, where it's like I didn't want to rank it too high because I didn't dislike it.
No, not by any means.
But I didn't want to give it a 7 because then I would have to be like, well, how's it compared to the other 7s I've given recently?
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'd feel a little self-conscious.
For me, I have 2 kind of like different rating metrics that I use for movies that we watch. One is like if it's like a very kind of serious, thoughtful like horror movie, how well do I appreciate its meaning? How well do I think that meaning was executed? And like those sorts of things. And kind of my scale of 1 out of 10 is kind of based on how I view the movie in that light. If it's just kind of like a for fun movie, like a lot of slasher movies or like this falls into, or I was considering picking the movie Freaky, and that would fall into this category as well. And for those, it's more of a like a scale of like how well executed do I think it was and how fun was it. Because it is hard to like rate this on the same scale as something like The Wailing, because they're 2 like very, very different things,
Yeah, they're not shooting for anything similar to each other.
No, not at all.
So it's really tough to try and grade them by the same metric. I think like a 6 or a 7 is about the right point to put this one at.
Okay, totally. Yeah.
Like it's just
very valid.
It's fun. It's good.
It's fun
Is
time.
it anything particularly special? Yeah, no, but like it does
Just
good. It touches
enjoyable.
on that nice cosmic shit that I've been missing so much. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's got some good stuff in there. And yeah, it's just a fun ride. So if you're looking for just a fun movie to like watch for Halloween with like some friends, I'd say this is like a really good one to pick. It's not like
Yeah.
overwhelmingly scary. So if you have friends that aren't that into horror, like I still think this is like a good pick.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about some trigger warnings.
Let's talk about those trigger warnings.
I was quite pleased to note one.
Yeah.
Which was we got another penis in this
movie. We got
another penis in this movie. If you like seeing penises explode, this movie is for you.
If I had a nickel for every time I've seen a penis explode in a movie, I would have 2 nickels.
For this podcast.
For the podcast.
Which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. It's so weird
that it happened twice. And that's why you listen to this podcast instead of other horror movie podcasts, because this one is the only one that has 2 exploding penises in it.
Exactly. That is incredibly true.
Yeah, this is the Exploding Penis Podcast.
We're rebranding.
Yeah.
We'll tell Nina next week.
Casual obsession refers to our obsession with exploding penises.
It's a casual obsession, though.
Yeah, we're more into horror movies, but like, you know.
It's kind of a thing of like, when we see one, we get really excited about it.
Yeah.
You know?
The most disappointing thing about Hellraiser, other than the dialogue and all those problems, the fact that they showed us a dong and didn't blow it up. Just ridiculous.
I do want to call out, I've been playing Pinhead and Dead by Daylight.
Oh, how is that?
He came out recently.
I almost bought him yesterday just to buy him, but I don't play Dead by Daylight enough.
Yeah. If you ever want to play with me, let me know. I've been playing it a lot lately.
I will do that.
He also has like a chatterer like skin.
Oh, that's cool.
He has like a chatterer voice line when he teleports. It's real cool.
That's neat.
But yeah, so
we're in the middle of trigger
exploding
warnings here.
Penis.
Yeah, we got an exploding penis. There's
how often do we actually pay attention to what segment we're in?
Never, pretty much never. It's shocking that we're doing them in the right order, really.
It's because I'm hosting.
There's some flashing lights.
Lights. A good amount of blood.
Not a doubt. I just don't remember. I was going to mention the blood. There's a lot of blood, especially in all of them, actually. There's a lot of blood in all the stories.
Yeah. Good deal of blood involved in that exploding penis.
That's true.
Yep.
Oh, and bodily fluids, I think in general we could trigger, because in the penis exploding episode, there's a big pus explosion everywhere.
Yeah,
which is kind of grody.
There's not a ton of actual body horror in the movie other than the exploding penis and such, but like I feel like there's enough stuff that skirts across it that it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if you are not a fan of, it's not shown on screen, but it's it is, I guess. A child dies. The kind of story centers around that. And then we get kind of the story of how the kid died. We're not shown explicitly like the kid dying, or we're not even really ever shown the kid. But if you have a hard time with that, then please be aware that's a thing in this movie.
Yeah. Also, implied cannibalism. Nothing shown, but very clearly
stated to have happened.
Insinuated.
Yep. Yeah. True. Okay. I think that's it for trigger warnings. What else is there? What other segment do we have before we get into like spoilers?
I don't know. I don't think that we have any at all, do we?
I don't think so.
Anyways, it's time to read Noah's notes. And
So
I
honestly,
mentioned this.
how scary did y'all like think this one was?
Thanks for
Maybe
asking.
yeah, just out of curiosity.
How scary did I think this was? Because, of course, I'm the one who always talks
honestly,
about
Jeff,
being scared.
I couldn't care less how scared that you thought this one was. Jeff, shut the fuck up.
The one opinion I don't ask for.
So how scary this movie is, I already talked about how it's not very scary. The only way I think you would find this movie to be very, very scary is if you have a lot of toxic masculinity and you're afraid of getting pregnant as a man, because maybe then this might scare you. Because, spoiler alert, that's one of the stories is a guy gets pregnant.
And then his penis explodes.
And then his penis explodes.
Whoa, spoilers, Jeff. We're not into that part yet.
So
oh my gosh, Emma, you didn't give a short description of the movie.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, did you?
She said it was an anthology.
It was just very, very quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was so
didn't
excited.
touch on
I thought
any of
this
the
was the
individual
first time.
stories, just the framing.
Honestly,
story.
That does make the most sense, though. We shouldn't touch on those because they're the huge spoiler part.
Yeah.
Outside of what we've already done.
Yeah. So yeah, if that describes you, then this movie is probably 10 out of 10 scary, or at least part of it. But if that doesn't describe you, you'll be okay.
Counter, there is one other condition that you could have that would make you find a segment of this movie very scary, and that is for the third story, the coma wife.
Yeah.
If you've got a specific set of fears pertaining to that kind of a situation, as I do, it might get you real bad. I might have cried a little.
Ooh, me too.
Okay.
That was...
It was rough. It's a rough one. It's a bad time.
Yeah, that one... Okay, fine. If you love your spouse or whatever,
like
and
a weirdo,
you're afraid of them being in a coma, that one might get you. Are you happy, Jeff?
Just for that. Thanks, Jeff. Way to make it a 10 out of 10 scary movie because you're so selfish.
Because I'm too busy simping for my wife.
All right. Well, with that out of the way, we are going to get into our spoiler discussion. So, if you want to watch this movie and you don't want it spoiled, maybe don't listen to the rest of this episode until you watch it.
But definitely after watching it, do come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need to know our opinions.
Our opinions are important.
Definitive.
Yeah. If you don't know what we think, you won't know what to think yourself, because that's how you should get your opinions, is listening to people who talk. Why would we be saying things if we weren't experts?
Okay, so spoiler synopsis. So, this mortician is kind of putting on the funeral for this child who has died. As the family is leaving, one person stays by the casket. It's this young blonde girl that's kind of like trying to take a peek-see in, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, like, I'm just curious. I saw a help wanted sign. Is that still like viable?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So they start walking around, and she's commenting on like how interesting it must be to be around deaths all the time. And he's like, "Yeah, everybody has a story." And so he starts telling stories. The first story is about a woman at a party who goes into the bathroom, and she's a thief. And so out of interest of what's in the medicine cabinet, she tries to open the medicine cabinet only to find it kind of like sticking shut. So she really kind of forces it open, and then an octopus monster grabs her and pulls her into the medicine cabinet, and she dies.
Except it was not an octopus.
Except it's kind of Kraken-like tentacle monster from a hentai.
Yeah, it's kind of Lovecrafty.
And then the lady's like, "That's it? That's a shitty story." He's like, "Okay,
Man, I loved that.
How's this one for you?" And he tells the story of... Second story was pregnant guy. So the second story is about this like hotshot college kid preaching about like female empowerment, just to get in with the ladies. And then he meets this girl, has sex with her, and she tells him to use a condom. He doesn't, and the next morning he finds himself pregnant. But it progresses incredibly quickly. He calls her freaking out, and then he goes over to her place where at this point he's like about to burst, and her parents are like, oh god, another one. And then he gives birth, and because there's not really a way for the baby to come out very easily, he just blows up kind of, and he gives birth to this kind of weird alien baby, and then they bring it upstairs to this room of cribs where there are a bunch of other weird alien babies. Then she's like, okay, that one's a bit better. They keep walking around, and she's commenting on like all the different stuff that he has around and all the things in his office. And then he tells a story about a guy and his wife where they're very happy, but then the wife comes into like a coma-like state, and he has to take care of her. And just kind of the weight of that over time drives him to want to kill his wife. And so he does. But he immediately feels a lot of regret about it. And he has to like cut up her body and put it in this trunk, and then he brings the trunk to the elevator, and the elevator gets stuck, and then blood starts pouring out of the box, and he starts freaking out trying to clean it up. Then the elevator goes into a free fall, and his wife's kind of mutilated corpse, at this point looking very kind of alien and creepy, pops out, and puts the ring back on his finger, and then they make out. And then he gets to the bottom of the elevator shaft, and he's just there kind of like repeating his wedding vows over and over as the police confront him. Then they bring the little boy's body down to the incinerator, and the girl's like, wait, I've been lying. I do know this kid. I was his babysitter. Let me tell you about like his story, and let me look at him one last time. And she tells the story of how a babysitter killer, or not a babysitter, like child killer, escaped from a nearby mental asylum and broke into their house. They got into a big fight, and the kid died in the end. But the twist was that actually she was the child killer, and the entire time she had been like cooking the child and preparing to eat him, when the real babysitter got back into the house and was trying to like fend her off.
Except she hadn't taken one of his teeth yet.
Yeah, she hadn't taken one of his teeth yet. Mm-hmm. She's
Because
kind of like the
thing.
tooth fairy killer. That's her thing. So she came here to get one of his teeth.
I found it really odd that she had time to butcher him and put him in the oven and all, but didn't take a tooth while doing that?
Yeah, I guess it's just kind of like a final thing she does, maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I get you. It wasn't high on her priority list. And then, if you notice, the doctor from the third story is the dad in the fourth story.
Yeah. And the husband from the third story is in the news clip dressed as a cop.
Oh, yeah.
He's standing behind the other guy who does all the talking, and then he leans into the mic and he's like, yeah. And he very clearly doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
One of the things I liked is I wasn't sure at first if the characters were like, if they were reusing actors a la American Horror Story.
Yeah.
Or if they were supposed to be the same characters throughout. I'm leaning towards same characters throughout because the one guy was a doctor in every part he appeared in.
Yeah.
He was the dad who was like, oh, and don't forget me, Doctor whatever my name is. And his wife was like, oh, Doctor whatever your name is, you're so funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sam, we'll be back later.
Yeah. But yeah, so she stabs the mortician to kill him and then get away, but he's kind of ends up being this like supernatural creature that has been
Full of
stuck
phlegm.
in the mortuary for however long. We're not exactly told, but we're led to believe it's been a very long time. So she starts running from him, ends up in the library where he starts pulling all of these books off the shelves, and these like rotten baby creatures kind of crawl up out of them and tear her apart. And then he stitches her back together, leaves the mortuary where he dies, and then she wakes up as kind of like this stitched Frankenstein creature almost. And she's now stuck in the mortuary and has to work as the mortician. And that's kind of the movie.
Yeah.
That's a broad overview of what happens. And yeah, I liked at the beginning. On the second watch, I realized, because the very beginning of the movie shows this kid delivering newspapers as he's like riding his bike through town, throwing newspapers at the different residences and stuff. And then he ends his path at the mortuary. And that's where we get kind of the introduction of the mortician. But as he's going through town, you get...
This is what you're saying, yeah.
You get hints of each of the stories coming. So the first thing you see is there's this fisherman with like this weird kind of like tentacle, like crab octopus creature in a box, which is an allusion to the first story. He passes
I love that because
by...
at first I'm like, oh, that's a nice lobster. And I like didn't pay much attention. I'm like, look at that lobster. That's a lobster.
Yeah.
And then the first story, I'm like, nice callback to the lobster there.
I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah. Then he passes a butcher's shop, which is a hint towards kind of the fourth story. And he's also the newspaper he's throwing is talking about the Tooth Fairy killer.
And the riots in the asylum.
Yeah. He passes the church where the couple from the third story get married. And then he passes the old frat house from the second story.
Huh.
So fun facts.
That's cool. Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah.
I didn't catch most of that.
But I've been talking for a while, so why don't you guys talk?
Well, boy, howdy, do I have many things to talk about. I have opinions on this movie.
Let's hear them.
I love I love anthologies that have like a framing device for all the stories.
Yeah.
I don't know if either of you have seen. Well, Emma, I know you haven't, as this was your first anthology, and Jeff, I know you probably have seen Holidays.
Yes, I have.
But if you haven't, I was gonna say if you haven't, you should check it out. But
it's very good.
It's there's like the two extremes, and Holidays has no through line other than the theme of holidays.
Yeah.
And there is no framing story. You just jump from holiday to holiday. And movies like ABCs of Death follow that line, and that one is a little excessive. It's 26 short films in one movie.
That's excessive. It's too short.
Yeah. I watched the first one, and it was okay, but I don't want to watch the second. I never want to watch the first one again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's some weird ones in there. But anyway. But then you have movies like VHS, which I find to be a very fun way to stitch all your movies together. I thought VHS was great in the way that it provided a central narrative of, yeah, there's someone sitting here watching movies looking for the one weird illegal snuff film that they're specifically looking for. But
okay, that's an interesting premise.
Yeah, honestly, we should watch it sometime. I think you would enjoy elements of it. Maybe not the whole thing, but there's a lot of good parts. But I enjoyed how bright and colorful this movie was. This was There was no point in this movie that I'm like, I see they're going for the super dark approach. No, this felt, and this is not meant as an insult. This is just as a framing of what I'm trying to say. This was the Disney Channel horror movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
You know what I
I can
mean?
see that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I liked it. That's one of the things that definitely nails home the this would be fantastic as a background party movie.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Because it was well lit, the colors were fun, and it wasn't, because it's a collection of short little stories. None of them were so plot heavy that you're not going to be able to like figure out what's going on pretty much right away.
yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely. And I liked in this movie because I was reading like an interview with the director, and he was saying that he really likes anthologies, and he originally wanted there to be like a really clear through line for each of the stories. And he's
yeah.
like, one exists in that like you it talks about kind of like the consequences of evil deeds and
Hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he's like, that's kind of like a gimme in anthology horror movies. So he's like, I don't really want to claim that as kind of the through line. But he's like, over time, as we started developing more and more, the through line became kind of the conversation taking place between the mortician and Sam about like how to tell an engaging story.
Yeah,
Um, where the first one is like very short and like very clear cut, and then as you go through more and more of the stories, they get more and more complex, and kind of like there's more elements to them. um
Mm-hmm.
and then with the last one, Sam tells her own story, and you get kind of like a different take on storytelling, in that it has this clear kind of misrepresentation of facts, um a twist, and all of this other stuff, just very much kind of like her own journey as she's been in the mortuary. But I thought that was like kind of really cool. The
yeah.
director was like, I just kind of like how it ended up framing um this conversation about anthology movies, and um like how to do them, or like how they should be
Mm-hmm.
done, or what people think makes a good anthology movie. Um, and I thought that was like a cool conversation
It is.
to have in a movie.
Yeah, I actually really wish that we did have Nina on for this episode because I feel like there's a lot of stuff in this movie that she would have a lot of very interesting thoughts on. Like as a writer, I think she would have a lot of really good thoughts about like the meta aspect of it being a story about telling stories. And also
Mm-hmm.
it hits on all that cosmic horror stuff that she likes as much as I do.
Oh yeah.
That is
Yeah,
true.
I texted her throughout the movie, and I'm like, I know you're not up to it right now, but you really should watch this
Yeah.
when you're feeling better, because I think that you would probably enjoy this a lot.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is I think this is really something that she would be into for sure.
Yeah, once she
Mm-hmm.
does watch it, you'll have to have her text us her thoughts,
Yeah.
because I'd love to hear them.
Oh, for sure.
Um, this also, fun facts. This movie was kickstarted.
Oh,
Really?
okay.
Uh-huh. Partially
Wild.
kickstarted. And I think like the funding from the Kickstarter is also what led them to being able to get it fully funded.
Hmm.
But I wasn't able to find like a good source for kind of how that played. But
Okay.
the Kickstarter budget went into filming the babysitter killer sequence, and that whole story. And so
I
I
was gonna
think
say, I thought I saw that that was a like an episode by itself. That was like a whole thing,
so.
Oh.
The director
or
had
a
a
short
short
film.
film that he did back in 2015, which I believe had the same actress that played Sam in this one,
Okay.
um, called The Babysitter Murders or something. And so I think it was reshot and kind of redone a little bit to fit into this movie, but that's kind of what the Kickstarter budget went into. And I wouldn't be surprised, because I think this was kickstarted. I couldn't find like an actual date of the Kickstarter, but I think I saw something in like a Reddit thread or something where it was back in maybe like 2016, 2017. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to make the babysitter murder sequence and then use that as kind of like a proof of concept to get funding elsewhere. Because I know eventually this became a Shudder original film. I don't know if that's where they got the rest of the funding was from Shudder or like how that worked, but I imagine.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I imagine that's kind of how it worked out. But yeah, so fun fact there.
That's cool.
Yeah, very fun.
Yeah.
I do have. Fact. What's that?
Clancy Brown kept his weird teeth prosthetic that they used.
Oh,
nice.
And also, it took like 3 hours to put his like makeup on.
No.
Wow.
Really?
That's kind of odd.
Apparently.
I wonder why.
Huh.
I don't know.
I mean, I guess 3 hours is not that long in terms of effects makeup, but like, it didn't seem like they had that much on him, other than the fact that he's not that old.
No. Yeah. Very much so.
Honestly, I was looking at him thinking, wow, this is a very old man. Totally blanking on the fact that Jeff's like, oh, Noah, you'll like this. It has Mr. Krabs in it. And I'm like, totally forgetting that.
Right.
And it wasn't until I ended up looking him up later, because I'm like, I wonder,
that guy.
I feel like I know this guy. What have I seen him in before?
The Shawshank Redemption.
I'm like, okay, the Shawshank Redemption. That's cool. And then I'm like, why the hell is he listed in a SpongeBob movie? That's weird. And then I'm like, well, he's in 2 SpongeBob movies.
He's in almost every episode of the show.
And that's when I realized, oh, that's right. I'm silly.
Indeed. I love him in this movie, though.
He plays the role very well. I enjoy every minute that he's on screen.
Yeah. I love how in the first scene that we see him in with like the little kid and stuff, he's so obviously trying to be creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when Sam shows up, he's so obviously continuing to try and seem creepy and weird.
Yeah.
His eulogy that he gave was not the worst I have heard, actually.
Yeah, up until...
At least he was really into it, right?
Like, reading from Corinthians, and I'm like, well, which Corinthians, sir? No one would just say Corinthians.
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe they didn't have the second one yet when he started reading the Bible, because he's so old.
Could be.
That's a possibility.
Back in my day, we only had one book of Corinthians.
And we were grateful for it.
Never mind any of that 3rd John nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved him pretty much throughout. There is one issue that I have with just with the ending of the framing story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is that Sam gets to continue being a child murdering cannibal.
Yeah, I was a little confused at that point.
Yeah, given the like sin and punishment theme of every single story up until that point, it kind of seemed like it would be more fitting if becoming the mortician prevented her from being able to indulge those desires. And it is kind of a punishment that way. Because Montgomery does say that he was once exactly like her. And he describes himself as having been a traveler on the outer regions of experience, like like Pinhead.
I was gonna say that's a Pinhead line if I've ever heard one.
Which I think they phrased it like that intentionally to make reference, right?
Oh, without a doubt.
Between that
he's
and like
very tall and straight, he's pale as a corpse.
Yeah, well, and between that and also having the totally not Halloween movie playing in the background in one of the stories, and also the amount of stuff in here that kind of passingly references Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's a lot more references that I just didn't catch because I wasn't looking, and that the movie's just full of that kind of thing. And I love that.
I thought it was definitely full of that.
I love that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of kind of love letter stuff in there.
Hmm.
And I felt that on my first watch of like, oh, that's kind of weird that like, okay, the kid's inside now and she is gonna kill the kid and eat him. Um, but again, reading the interview and him talking about wanting to take all of these like kind of very well known, not cliches of horror, but kind of like cornerstones of horror that have been around forever.
Yeah.
And like use them for the movie. One of them being like the creepy house on the hill, and how there's always like
Hmm.
those rumors about the creepy house on the hill, and
Yeah.
like it's that way while Clancy Brown's character is in there. And I imagine like perhaps at first when he first turned into the mortician that he probably had a spree of kind of like experimenting with his stuff, but then he just kind of got bored with it over time or like whatever else.
That could be.
And those rumors kind of kept going of like creepy house on the hill. And then her taking over is like this new era of creepy house on the hill and new stories about the creepy house and all of that.
Yeah. I still though I was kind of thinking it would be cooler if it just like if it was something about the house itself as it seems to be, right? And
Yeah.
when you are there, when you take on the role of the mortician, you're no longer able to do that stuff. And that's like, the reason he collects the stories, because that's
Mhm.
like the closest thing he has to being able to actually do any of it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. They
I wonder why they didn't do
apparently
that.
in the Kickstarter they mentioned a comic series that they were doing as well.
Ooh.
And at the time of the Kickstarter, like the first issue was out, but Googling it, I couldn't find like a copy anywhere. But that is something that they're apparently working on to kind of like expand and explain kind of the lore of like the house and all of that. But
Huh.
yeah, I would
Okay.
have loved to have been able to read that.
Yeah, that sounds cool. The scene where all the like burned children start crawling out of the books and they rip Sam
Mhm.
apart
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
is just because I know neither of you would have read this. Is I think it's very reminiscent of the scene at the end of my favorite Lovecraft story, which is Herbert West Reanimator, where spoilers for Herbert West Reanimator. It's been out for 100 years.
Holy shit,
At the
I can't
end
believe you're
of
about
the
to spoil
story,
Herbert West.
all of also the sled is Rosebud, but
Holy shit.
at the end of the story, throughout Herbert has spent like Herb, I call him, has spent years and years trying to successfully reanimate a corpse. And he has thought himself to be failing all of this time, but at the end of the story, all of his failed creations kind of track him down and they basically just grab him and rip him apart. Exactly as we are shown in the end of the Mortuary Collection here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it was published in 1922, so it's been 99
Oh,
Jeff,
I sound
So-
like such an
I can
idiot
never
now.
trust you again.
years.
Oh,
How
nobody's
am I
ever
supposed
going to
to think
listen
that
to
you
me.
know anything?
I've got no credibility at all.
No, that's really cool. And I really liked one of the things that the Kickstarter talked about was that the director really wanted this to be like a love letter to like practical effects and kind of like like
and
the
there
fun
were some great practical effects in this.
yeah, like the fun bits of 80s horror kind of it was a time like before like special effects were used a bunch and
Yeah, before
they
CGI
used
was
like
really
some
usable.
yeah, they used some like special effects to kind of like highlight portions of the graphic or of the practical effects, but really they used a lot of practical effects and
Really?
I liked that.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I
Like
didn't
all of
register
the
most of that. I only really noticed the stuff that was CGI. I wonder how much of it maybe wasn't actually.
I think
so
a good portion of
the
it was practical. There
Wow.
was
yeah,
an
the
awful lot of stuff.
Was
the
the
wife corpse
The
was
wife, yeah.
practical.
hmm,
Very
The
reminiscent of
kids at
looked
the
Crimson
very
end
Peak,
good.
were
too.
practical.
Oh yeah, very Crimson Peak.
Um I mean the pregnancy stuff was practical.
Oh yeah, and it looked very good. They made him look gross.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All the veins sticking out in funny colors and stuff. Like they just did
His
weird
eyes
shit to the
turning
rest
like
of his
this
skin.
orange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was real cool.
Was the tentacle monster from the bathroom mirror? Was that mostly practical at least? Because I noticed they did a lot of stuff with it, like having it out of focus most of the time that it was on screen, which is the kind of stuff that you do to cover up practical effects lots of times.
I was wondering that too, because there were definitely a lot of parts that were not practical.
Yeah, there were moments that you could see it was definitely CG on some of those tentacles, but like most of the time it wasn't in focus, so you kind of couldn't tell. So whether it was practical or CGI, they made it look really good. So
I think I'm pretty sure that's CGI.
okay.
Oh, I only just registered too when she's flipping
Well,
through the wallets in that one that she
parts of
has
it
the
might
wallet for
actually
our dear husbando.
Oh yeah.
Actually I do think a lot of that is practical.
Is it? Okay.
Neat.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
They did
Looking
real
at it,
good with it.
I think the scene where they first burst out of the mirror is special effects maybe,
That
but
makes
when
sense.
they like wrap around her and start pulling her in, that's practical.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought it was. All right.
Yeah.
Because right at the first, when they first burst out, it definitely does kind of look like CGI. But after that, it starts to look real good.
Yeah.
And that was only for a second, so it's not like they sat on it. That's
Mhm.
pretty cool. I wonder how they did that. The shot from the fourth story when Sam throws that TV down onto the dude's
guy's
head.
face.
Yeah, and we're seeing out through the TV screen, and we watch his head flatten. Like, what a shot that is!
That was
That's
real
a good
fun.
one.
I wonder how they
Yeah.
did that.
Guess we'll never know.
We'll never know.
They'll
Movie
never tell
magic.
us. Yeah, movie magic.
I'm curious because you both said you had a pretty strong reaction to the third story before we got into the spoilery bits.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a bit more?
Well,
I
not to
kinda
get too
don't.
depressing on Maine. If
Get
Jeff would
depressing
rather
on
not,
Maine.
then I will not.
We should. We're here to talk about the movie.
So here's the thing, right? Our grandpa had Alzheimer's. It was really, really bad at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
He forgot how
so
to
yeah,
get
it
up
was
and walk.
yeah. So it was one of those just like a little close to home kind of stories, you know.
Actually,
And, he was also quite old,
He
so like
was,
it wasn't the same situation, but it like
Yeah, he was like 90.
when a family member dies from a very tragic situation like that, you're like, but what if that's going to happen to me?
Yeah, there's
So-
that, and also even before that, actually, I've always had ever since me and Becca have been together, I've had this fear that like something's gonna happen to one of us, and the other is gonna have to like, either take care of a catatonic, non-responsive spouse, or make the horrible decision to pull the plug.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've just had that particular set of fears really, really bad for a long while. So that was just like, ugh.
Have you
Yeah.
guys watched Bly Manor?
No.
Not yet. Is that a
God
thing in
damn
there?
it.
Is that a thing that's in there? Because if it is, I'm probably not going to watch it anytime soon.
No. Well, maybe. Not really. I bring it up because at the very end, because it takes place like at a wedding, and then they're sitting down, and this woman is like, "Oh, let me tell you a story," and she tells like the story, and the story is kind of like the season. And then in the last episode, she finishes the story, and then it shows like the rest of the wedding. And after the story is told, like all the guests kind of disperse, and the woman who told the story is left with the bride. And they're just kind of like sitting there and talking for a little bit, and the bride opens up and talks about kind of like how she's really afraid. Like she's really happy and she loves this guy so much, but she's really afraid, thinking to the future, like what if something happens to him and he like dies or something before she does. She doesn't know how she would like keep going beyond that. And the girl who told the story just kind of like comforts her, and it's like you just got to make the most of like the time you do have with them and not worry about the future of what things might be. But if something does happen, like it'll be hard like constantly, and there'll be things that you see that remind you of them, and they'll just kind of make you like cry as you like remember them, but like it gets like easier to carry as time goes on. And as you guys were talking, they say it much more poetically and a lot better, but you guys talking about that just reminded me of Bly Manor. And that scene.
I should watch Bly Manor.
I
mean, I already knew that I should watch Bly Manor, but like, you know.
We should binge watch it.
Binge watch Bly Manor.
We should binge watch Bly Manor.
That's a thing we could do.
Let's see. I want to talk about the second one. Because
second story?
Yeah.
Pregnant boy?
Karl Marx would want you to have a condom.
That's what I wrote down.
That's the note that I
wrote. I'm just like, Marx did say women should bone down some frat boys. That's in Capital Volume 2.
Yeah, that's one of the things that he was really known for pushing.
As soon as he's like, Marx wanted to push for sexual liberation, I'm like, I don't remember that, but
I don't remember that one.
Maybe I haven't read enough yet.
See, all I could think of was that excerpt from Obama's book that everyone was passing around a little while back, where he talks about how he read leftist theory to try and get women in college and ultimately ended up giving up on it because it didn't work.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, that's very funny. But yeah, I don't know. I loved the second story was just really fun to me because I don't know, there was just a whole lot of moments where I'm like, yeah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. But then he's talking about how don't you get it? Duh, all we need to do is all the girls who were going to take condoms anyway are going to be willing to bone at the party, to his dumb friend, and his friend's like, holy shit, what a revelation. He grabs a fistful of condoms and says, hey, do you want a condom? Marx said to have sex. Do you know who Karl Marx is?
That guy.
Sexual liberation?
That guy. And that so and bad. Then the scene later on where he like goes into the room with the shots and the guy's like, yeah, no thanks. And he's like, okay. And then he like tries to do both of them.
Cheers.
And the face that he makes.
Like, yo, you know who it reminded me of?
I know exactly who it reminded you of.
Yeah,
just like the other
this
part
one time we were hanging out with some people, and this kid's just like, oh yeah, my brother, he can't handle anything. He's like, no, I can actually. So he pulls out, I don't know if you've ever had Sailor Jerry rum, but it's I would refer to it as like
firmly
diesel
okay.
fuel.
It's high proof. It's
if you are not a
drinker rum,
and then someone hands you a shot of Sailor Jerry rum, it's not a smooth ride. So we all have shots of this, and he's like, all right, let's take shots if you're not a bitch. So we all do our shots, and this kid's brother
most of us, we all just drink them like regular people.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to set the full scene. We're all drinking it, and it's nothing.
Yeah, we pull faces because they're a little like harsh,
it's powerful,
but we're not
stuff.
like, that's to be expected. But no, this kid's brother, older brother, not for any real reason to let you know, but it's kind of important, I guess. Takes it. We were around a campfire. He sprays it all over the fire. Fire flares up, and he sounds like he's about to die. He's like, oh, oh.
Yeah, he's like coughing and like,
and he's and this is and then
and
he immediately
the stuff
turns
had, like,
around.
barely touched his
Oh my
lips.
gosh.
Like most of
Oh,
it was
barely
still
touched
in the
his lips.
glass.
Yeah, and he just sprayed it all over the fire. I shit you not. 10 minutes later, this dude turns around and says, yeah, I have a pretty high alcohol tolerance, while holding a can of Twisted Tea, saying, I gotta drink like 6 of these before I really start to feel anything. It's like, dude.
The combination of those two events in the same night is the funniest thing I have ever witnessed in person to date.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. But that's what our good old nerdy buddy reminded me of.
Old Twisted Tea guy.
Old Twisted Tea guy. And he took the sip and then he's like, and spits it back into the cup and he's like, while his friend's making fun of him.
Love
It's
that.
very, very good.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's hilarious and I love it. Do we want to... I just saw that you put your Noah's notes, since Nina isn't here, for us to read.
Yeah,
do
in
we wanna
case
go to
someone else
Noah's
wanted
notes?
to go through them.
I can read them,
Okay.
Bless.
but I mean, what would we do for a theme song?
That's a good
I mean,
question.
it has to be special since Nina's not here, right?
Wait,
It has to.
before we hit into the notes, while Jeff thinks of an appropriate thing,
Okay, so
I did
I
want to
have
say
time to think of a song now because I am not ready.
you have a chance. So, at the end of the movie, Jeff was saying is a reference to Herbert West, Reanimator, old
Yeah.
Herbie, the Herbster, the love bug
Herbster.
himself.
That's him. That's what that movie was based on.
I love how after like the after Montgomery Doc says not to underestimate your audience after he gets stabbed in the stomach and then pulls his I'm actually evil an eldritch horror stunt. The movie underestimates its audience so hard by having one of the little burned children put a tooth back in its mouth to show that they were her victims. And like, it was so clearly stated that these were her victims. All the books coming down, and he's like, oh, there's a lot of you in here after all. Boom, 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 boom. All the books falling everywhere. All these things attack her, and then one just dramatically pushes a tooth back in its mouth. I'm like, I picked up on that. I fully understood that.
I kind of liked that,
dumb
though.
that I didn't pick up on it?
I liked that though. Like I didn't think that it was like, you know, pandering or like, you know, handing it to the audience or anything. I just thought it was kind of like a signifier that they have gotten their justice, you know.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I think it really did pair quite humorously to me with the don't underestimate your audience. Now put the tooth in their mouth.
It does fit the like meta aspect of the storytelling in the movie. Can't fault that.
You know what? You got me there. And now, since you were talking this whole time, Jeff, I assume that you have a song ready.
I am. I've got like a phrasing thing that I need to like iron out, and I know I should probably just jump to a different song, but I don't have another one.
What's the phrasing thing? I put a little mark in here so that we can cut.
Okay, cool.
We'll workshop a song.
No,
I'm thinking "Duality" by Slipknot, and just putting it right at the beginning of that like chorus line, but like I don't quite know how to get it in there. Like I don't know. I put my movies into my notes. That's dumb. That's terrible.
I sit right down and I read some notes.
That's awful. That's so much worse.
It is.
It's probably just not a good choice as a song. Like I should probably just move to something else. What's the chorus of Vermilion?
I do not remember.
Maybe I should just not be so hung up on it being a Slipknot song. I should just
switch over to Converge.
Be looking at something else. Converge. Well, in that case, I could just scream reading Noah's notes really loud with a funny cadence, and nobody would ever know which song it is. Nobody knows the lyrics of any of those songs.
Yeah, that's not a good poll.
Ah,
I mean, it's not. It's always a good time for old time rock and roll.
I like that old time Noah's notes.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, what a great
maybe,
theme song.
I was thinking maybe like Black Sabbath and be like, I'm reading Norse notes.
Right.
It's terrible.
Have you picked a new song?
You know what? Maybe just leave that in.
leave all of it in.
Wow, what a good song pick, Jeff.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
We
Thanks,
cut
Jeff.
that part out.
Totally. Okay, so we are here with Noah's Notes. This is my first time ever looking at Noah's Notes, so this is exciting for me.
A historic
right
occasion
at the beginning,
on the anniversary of the podcast.
I see that he puts, right at the beginning, I see he puts the order of how the podcast is supposed to go, which I find funny considering everybody else always messes up the order.
Well,
no one
order has
also
been added
always
relatively
messes up the
recently.
order.
And then underneath triggers, I see penis.
Whoa, it's there. I'm looking at it.
Also euthanized wife and bodily fluids, but penis.
Yep.
Wait, I want to make it clear. I'm looking at the notes. I'm seeing the word penis. I'm not looking at a penis. Just to be clear.
No, there is a very explicit picture of a penis.
Yeah, it's weird that you put that in your
right,
notes, actually.
It's my notes, okay? It's not your notes. It's my notes.
Okay. Whose penis is it, Noah?
I don't know, dude. Why would I know?
All right, so here we go with the notes. Guy who has ever only seen Twilight, getting some real Twilight vibes off this one.
Now, for context, I've been watching a lot of Twilight recently, but
the
the
movie
opening
does
of
have
this
that
movie, it
filter
was
on
just
it.
like
It's not quite the same one,
the
but it does
kids
have
riding
something.
through town with his newspapers. I'm like, oh, look at the lobster, a coastal town. Kind of like how Forks, I guess, is supposed to be coastal. I guess
They don't ever show that,
but there is an ocean
yeah,
right there.
They're at the beach sometimes.
They jump off a cliff.
Twilight has a beach episode?
Yeah,
that's where they meet Jacob, right?
But
they see Jacob there.
Yeah, well, Jacob's friends all jumping off a cliff, and he's like, "Oh, those are my old friends,
oh,
but they don't hang with me anymore."
Yeah, it's not really a beach; it's a cliffside.
But it is the ocean.
It is the ocean, I guess.
But I felt so stupid. The first note I was gonna write down was like, "Wow, this is reminding me a lot of Twilight." Then I'm like, "Oh, holy shit, I'm Boss Baby guy."
Your second note, I love the gold leaf font they've got going on with these credits, also helping my Twilight vibes.
It's true though.
I like the fourth note, Montgomery Dark. What a guy! I love him. It's a family name. No shit, my guy. That's really funny though, because it's literally they're talking about his surname, and he's just like, it's a family thing.
Yeah. Dark.
Where do I know Sam from? That's my big question. She seems so familiar. Nowhere. I looked her up and it's a total wash. She just has that kind of face, I guess.
This is a rare instance of going back to edit a note at the end of the movie.
Gotcha. I do love an anthology film that has an over-the-top narrator figure.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty great.
If you're gonna have a narrator, I feel that this movie had the same energy as Tales from the Hood, as far as the energy of both of them have a mortician as their narrator.
Oh.
But you know,
is that the setup to Tales from the Hood?
To a point.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. Can't wait to complain that there's no consistent through line with the stories.
Hey, it's not my fault that we watched this literally right after having the whole debate in the chat.
Yeah. The funniest part is that this one has probably the biggest set of consistent through lines in the stories of any anthology I've seen.
Oh yeah. And for reference, this is about the same level of through line that Trick or Treat has.
Are you fucking kidding me? And that guy was like, "Oh man, I don't see how any of it connects." Like, what?
Yeah, the only difference is Trick or Treat doesn't have a blatant narrator in between each story, but it is visibly almost that level.
But the main character is barely in it.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Embarrassing.
Bled to death from a nail file cut. The shame of it all.
Well, she could have.
That's how they got Alexander the Great.
Was that from the first story?
It was, yeah.
Okay, yeah, she did not bleed to death.
She did not.
No.
She got snapped
she was
in half
killed by an
octopus
octopus monster.
It was not an octopus. It was.
I
love
really
that scene. The way she's just like, "Well, the octopus though, it's a little far fetched," and he's like, "Well, no, it's not an octopus."
I really love. It's a kind of a straightforward story. Oh, really? What is it? Don't poke your nose where it doesn't belong. And he's like, yes, but there's a greater meaning to that. And then he like almost immediately leaves the room, and she goes poking around where she doesn't belong. And I'm like, well, you haven't learned a single lesson from this story.
I really enjoy the colors in the bathroom. It's also bright. Brings to mind ABCs of death with how small this whole bit has been so far.
Actually, can we talk about that bathroom for a second and how strange it is? It's very similar to
on the back of like the Kraken.
It's very similar to the picture of that bathroom that Nina sent us that her mom encountered with her friends that one time, where it's just
really
like
long boat
a
bathroom.
hallway with a toilet at the end.
Yeah. Well, at least it's like a hallway, and then it opens up.
But like
into like a regular bathroom.
It's just such a strange shape for a bathroom to be.
I agree.
Or for any room to be, actually.
I didn't notice until my second view that, like, behind the toilet, there's a giant mural of a ship being attacked by, like, a Kraken.
Oh.
That is what that was, yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's foreshadowing.
Makes sense.
I have fun with when the people hearing the anthology stories critique what just happened.
I think that's always a very enjoyable element of these type of things, right? Like,
I think so.
Yeah. Like, that was a shitty story.
Especially because then you get to see your over-the-top narrator character react to that. About it. And I love how Montgomery Dark just gets really flustered immediately.
He's like, I have others.
He's like, I have... There's actually a lot of stories here. That's not even my best one. That
I'm
was
just getting warmed up. And she's like, well, all right.
Did I ever tell you about the boy with a baby in his penis?
It exploded.
Yeah, I think so.
And after that, she's just like, your stories are kind of predictable.
I don't know what this next one means, so maybe you can bring some insight. Little face boy in the lightning.
Yeah, what you talking about
little boy face in the lightning. There was the lightning flash as they transferred to the hallway, and there was a face there for a split second. And then she talks about, who are all these ghouls on the wall? And he's like, oh, those aren't ghouls. They're... And then he's on the wall. But it was in that scene.
Okay, gotcha. Finally, someone saying foyer the right way.
That made me very happy.
I'm assuming that is a long-standing pet peeve of yours.
So there's this thing at work, right? Where we call our hallway the foyer. Mm-hmm. However, we don't call it the foyer because everyone says the foyer. And I'm like, that's not how you say it. And then a former friend of mine, when I got mad about that, when I was... because it happened at his church when I was visiting him once. And I'm like, I leaned over in the middle of the announcements and I'm like, that's not how you say foyer. And he's like, what do you mean? That's how we say it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a French word. And he's like, well, this isn't France then. This is America. We win. And it's just like, okay,
how do I know exactly the person that you're referring to in this story?
Because
our former friends are very easy to spot in our stories.
They're all fucking assholes.
They kind of are.
But they at least have 3 distinct personalities, so the 3 of them are very easy to
they are
apart.
easy to spot. Oh. So, anyways, for our listeners, anytime me and Noah tell stories, you can probably tell who it's about if you know these people.
It's either
I
it's
don't,
Vegas
so I
or
never
Sailor
can.
Jerry or Twisted Tea.
Yeah. What I really liked though is that the trying to find the best way to phrase this, the previous head honcho at your workplace did not refer to it as a foyer. He always called it the narthex.
Oh yeah.
I have no idea what the origin of that term is, but
narthex
apparently
means.
it's just a foyer.
Interesting.
Or a large hallway of some sort, I suppose.
Long, narrow, enclosed porch.
That's not what that thing is at all.
It's
He was wrong.
specifically about churches.
Oh, okay.
Crossing the entire width of a church at its entrance.
Okay.
Used
So he was using that word because he's a nerd. I see.
Yeah, I think it's a Catholic thing.
Oh.
Yeah, the church that we went to at the funeral, the narthex was that spot outside of the sanctuary that went like
The spot between the
directed-
doors?
Yeah.
I would have thought of that as a foyer.
Me too, but it's the
narthex. Enough talking about your church.
I know, right? Honestly.
Yeah.
Can't believe we're going to see a story about keeping it in your pants in a horror anthology. Will wonders never cease?
That does kind of happen a lot, doesn't it?
It is a very common trend, in my opinion. I think if there is not... It kind of feels like there is a penis mutilation bit in almost every horror anthology, even though I know that's a wildly incorrect statement to make, and
there
that
is one
not
in
even
Holidays,
remotely
though.
true. It feels
There's
very
one in
true
this.
to me.
There is one in Holidays. I'm trying to think if there's one in XX.
You do.
I don't. Oh, that's the thing.
You do have a note further along that says, "I feel like every horror anthology needs some sort of weird penis trauma."
I did say that. See, ABCs of Death had a few. I don't think VHS did, but there was a weird pregnancy thing in one of them. So like, same vibes, kind of.
Similar.
Guys are so scared of losing penis, it make good horror content.
I think that's the root of it. Yeah, it's the fear of losing penis.
It's true.
Psychologists call that FOLP.
Yeah.
FOLP. Classic.
Holy
FOLP
shit,
moments.
dude, he's doing card tricks. I'm sold.
FOLP Fiction is my favorite movie.
Also, how dare you read note for note my stupid notes? Please don't.
Is that not the
I'm skipping
purpose
some
of
of them. I bet he'd have ended up alive at the end of the story if he just stayed wrapped. Yep, that is true. The moral.
As soon as he took it off, not so subtly slingshotted it across the room, I'm like, well, obviously he already was going to die.
She had to have heard him do that. There's no possible way he did that and she didn't notice. Come on.
Yeah. Condoms, noted poison ivy barriers.
Though, how can I be liberated without my poison ivy barrier? Yeah, his friend being like, "Oh, you caught poison ivy from that girl last night. You used a condom, didn't you?"
You're like, what? What is that?
Okay, I need to know what this note is referring to. Damn, this movie predicted Lil Nas X.
With how
his
pregnancy
thing that he's doing right now.
with his current pregnancy thing where he's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant with Baby Montero, the album."
Oh, okay. I got you. I love how he looks like he's about to shit his pants and they're too committed to the frat tradition.
Oh, he's walking down the stairs and he's about to, like, it looks like he's about to spray diarrhea everywhere.
In their defense.
And they're just like...
In their defense, and this is the only thing that I will say in defense of anybody in that story, they probably just assumed he was hungover.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But then he breaks water all over their faces.
Yeah.
Water, yes.
He blows an awful lot of something out of somewhere.
Man, that was grody.
And I don't know how it is that after that happened, he was like, well, how is it going to come out? Like,
same way it got in.
Like, things have already exited your body in large quantities. I think it went the same way as that, probably.
Aren't you worried I'm a serial killer? Don't you see all the missing boys around campus? And he's like, huh?
I'm skipping a lot of notes here, which is basically like your sad boy notes about the third story.
Yeah, these look very similar to all the notes that I took during that one, which all of my notes were as follows. This one seems like more of a bummer. God, this is so fucking sad. Is that the same doctor? Oh my god, this is horrible.
Yeah.
So Noah, at the end, it says, this whole segment just makes me sad. I did not sign up for this. That's something I like about anthologies, though. I feel like they sometimes hit a lot harder than a feature-length story, just because it's a distilled instance of whatever the story is.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
And the director did talk about that, of like why he likes anthologies. Is he's like, sometimes you come up with like a cool little like horror idea, and then people try to turn that into a 90-minute movie, and it kind of like falls apart in the third act. But it's like, but with anthologies, you can just kind of like make it as it should be, and you don't have to worry about like stretching it out too thin.
Yeah, you have to stick to just the meat of the story.
And I do. That.
Yeah. Look at what was that one? The
entirety
YouTube
of Holidays
short with the light switch.
Oh,
yeah,
that
one. And they tried to turn that into a full movie.
You can't do that.
From what I hear, it was not nearly as good.
That doesn't work.
It was a perfect 5-minute movie.
You can't make a novel out of a creepypasta.
Mm-hmm.
It does not work.
Till that.
Oh shit! That's the thing that's wrong with every Stephen King story.
Yeah.
Stephen King would write the best creepypastas, but he cannot do a whole story.
Mm-hmm. No, his short stories very good. His full books, hit or miss.
Yeah.
You wrote very little notes on the fourth story. I was wondering where the blood on the door came from. The practical head, very nice.
That's still the third story.
In the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I made the whole segment makes me sad. That was not at the end of it. That was just when I was very sad.
Okay, gotcha.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of my thoughts on the fourth one. I wrote a lot of ones on the fourth one. What are you talking about? It's a whole section.
Well, now I'm getting to it. I like the film grain that this segment has. The ones that Monty told all have a similar look to them, but this one just feels a little different, and I like that.
So disappointed that was just because, and now if I had seen the short film, obviously it probably would have made much more sense that I'm clearly watching the short film that they made in preparation for this. But I thought for sure that Sam telling the story was going to have a different visual look than the ones that Monty was telling, and I loved that. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah,
and
I was kind of thinking the same.
They pulled out, and I'm like, oh, we're in the TV.
Yeah,
it's a movie. Never mind.
Yeah, what I had thought would be a really cool touch is if, in addition to having a different aesthetic, Sam's story also would have like a different cast of actors playing the characters. So then the idea is kind of like, Dr. Kubler was the doctor in all the stories that Montgomery told, because that's Montgomery's idea of the concept of a doctor. Like when you just say a doctor, that's the guy that he thinks of. So when he's telling the story, that's what we see. Like that kind of thing. But then you'd have a different set of actors if somebody else was telling the story. I thought that was going to be like a really neat touch, and then it wasn't. But then it was something else, so I wasn't mad about that.
Yeah. I feel like while that's a great idea and I love it dearly, I don't know that we would have enough shorts in a single movie to make it work.
Yeah.
But I love the idea. It's very neat.
Yeah. His hand looks pretty great for having gone through enough of a meat grinder to actually churn some stuff out.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
It's true.
I mean,
but also that was pretty brutal.
Also,
hand through a meat grinder.
Oh my gosh. And especially when she just went in for a couple extra cranks.
Yeah.
One thing I liked about that though is when it was revealed at the end that she was the real intruder and not him. The weird inconsistent moments with her telling the story all like kind of came together where it's like, oh, so this makes a lot more sense now, actually.
Yeah. And I like kind of rewatching their little like fight, how he constantly like shows restraint and like he's scared to do things.
Yeah.
Or like take things to the next level. But she's very brutal.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like what she like jumps to.
Knife first. Meat grinder second.
Ugh,
knife
who even
again.
Thinks to do that? Oh.
You're not a killer. Yeah. Don't worry about it. Pushes him off the banister and then crushes his head with the TV. Like, what?
The way he screams when she pushes him over the banister is... like, the way he screams every time something awful is done to him throughout is very convincing.
I like how this note just kind of stops in the middle. See, she resoundingly killed the intruder. What happened to the kid? Like, did he already... Holy shit, she was the killer. The roast was Logan. I won't lie. That one took me by surprise.
I was halfway through writing that note, and I'm like, there's no point in me finishing this thought. Logan's in the oven.
Yeah. Let's see. Aw, he's allowed to leave. Oh, what a shame.
That seems really something, isn't it?
He's just like, he walks out and he's like, oh, delightful. Right. And then he takes like 2 more steps and he evaporates.
Yeah.
I love the way that they made that look too. Like they made it look really goofy, and I think that's the best thing they could have done.
Yeah, absolutely. And now she's in charge. I hope she's ready for however long she's stuck here for. And that's the end of Noah's notes.
I feel like I was grilled for these notes. These were grueling notes. And I can't believe you skipped past sexy Bart. I didn't
even know what that was.
Yeah,
that was
Bart?
talking about one of the characters in the movie, right?
It was within the movie, the babysitter killer or whatever.
Oh.
Her boyfriend Bart came over. And she's just like, oh, Bart, you're so sexy. And I'm like, obviously Bart? Everyone has a type. But...
guys named Bart,
like,
though?
Well, not only guys named Bart, but like you look at him and he was just kind of there. I don't know. Everyone has their type, but he was not my type. I tell you that much.
I really like that as a joke about 80s slashers. Because lots of times you look at the guys in those movies and it's like, well, this guy though? Like he's just...
It's like, okay, young Johnny Depp. I get it. And then there's Thaddeus, Thad for short. He's like, hey baby, we fuck all the time. And they're like, oh Thad, stop it. And it's like, Thad gets it. Thad's not even wearing a crop top. Or Thad's wearing such a crop top.
Yeah. Can I make a brief side topic, side convo to talk about someone sexy? The new Thor for God of War. He's a good boy.
I love new Thor so much. And I'm so confused. Jeff, you'll have a lot to weigh in on here. So many people are looking at new Thor and they're like, he's not attractive. A strong god wouldn't look like that, actually.
Oh, wouldn't he though?
That's the thing. Everyone in the comments of all these posts is info dumping about strong men.
Yeah.
And they're like, every strong man is fat, actually.
Yeah, you look at Brian Shaw lately. He's been trimming down, but he's still a very large man.
There's talk about
Robert
about
Oberst.
Thor in the old Norse myths being like, actually Thor's like a chunky dude. He sits around and drinks and parties until he kills people,
It
and then
makes
he goes and drinks
sense.
and parties again.
Well, and also
So
if you
there's
just
those
think
people.
about like Viking beauty standards, I don't think they really had a ton of that for men. It was mostly just like you
functional?
take care of yourself, you comb your hair and your beard and shit, and like be strong. That was the thing that they cared more about. That and women's ability to do math, because math is witchcraft.
Exactly.
That's my favorite thing about Viking culture is they kept women around. They respected women specifically because they were able to do math. They had them do all the bookkeeping, with the logic being that math is a form of witchcraft. Therefore, women can do it and men can't.
I did not know that about Vikings.
That was a thing
awesome.
they believed. Isn't it great?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
The third group of people in the comments that I'm a huge fan of, to continue talking about big
Right, of course. Simping?
there's the people. No. There's the people that are like, bodybuilders are actually quite strong when people are talking about how bodybuilders don't have any functional strength. I literally saw someone say
a blatantly wrong claim to make.
Well, they're like, they have a lot of muscles. Muscles equal strength. They are strong, and it's like,
it's not that simple.
They have a lot of show muscles, and then everything's like, when they look like that, they are at their weakest because they're like
when they're
starving and dehydrating
down.
themselves so that they look their best.
That's a very big thing. Then
someone literally was just like, they're stronger than me, and it's like, in that state. No, actually, I don't know that they are.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. You have tripped the thing that's in my brain, and I can't not say all of this. The relationship between muscle size and strength is extremely complicated. It is not as simple as a bigger muscle just automatically being stronger. Being stronger has very little to do with the size of your muscle, although a larger muscle has a greater potential for strength because it's more contractile fibers. But like, to say that bodybuilders are all show and no go is a blatantly wrong thing. I mean, come on, you can find videos of Ronnie Coleman leg pressing like 2,000 pounds for 70 reps or whatever the fuck, and like front squatting 500 pounds, which is insane even for powerlifters. Like, it's not that, like, it's not as though getting big prevents you from being able to get strong or something. Like, that's absurd. I hate when people talk about bodybuilders like they're weak like that. It doesn't, nobody cares about any of this, I'm aware, but like, it annoys me so much.
No, I knew you specifically would definitely gain a lot from this discourse. I thought you would like it.
Yeah. And if you look at any of the top strongmen, Thor, the new Thor, I saw that picture. He literally looks like Bobby Thompson.
I don't know who that is, but he looks.
Google him real quick.
Like
he's one of the guys
break anyone in half.
He's one of the guys that's like on the rise right now. If you put glasses on new Thor, that's basically what he looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, he looks like he definitely has the potential to kick some ass. Like, that's...
Man, I love powerlifter stuff where it's like they still want to have the aesthetic of picking up like logs, but logs aren't heavy enough. So it's like a big, huge log with handles on it to pick up that they can lift up, but also like big metal weights on it as well because it needs to still be very heavy.
Well, you have to be able to... The thing about putting the plates on the sides of it is mostly just a progression kind of thing. You know, you can't just have a bunch of...
Oh, yeah.
Things at
no,
set
but I
weights.
love how, yeah, it's fun for everyone to pick up like big metal plates on a metal bar, but then there's just this like, yeah, this is a big log wrapped in rope. Pick it up too.
Yeah, put it over your head. Don't be a bitch. Come on. You ever watch people do Atlas stones?
Is that the big round rocks that I'm seeing this man squat around with?
Yeah.
You gotta pick them up and put them on top of something in a competition, or like put it over a bar a bunch of times.
Worlds and worlds of like development of like materials and stuff. We have like people can load up a rack with as much weight as you could ever want, but it's like rock.
Yeah, but some
Big
people
rock.
are still just like, I'm gonna pick up a giant rock.
Yeah, he can pick up a thing with handles, but could he move my washing machine?
You ever see the keg tosses?
Man,
yeah,
I
I've
love
seen
stuff
those.
like that.
Those are cool.
I love those.
There's a lot of really cool, like, I feel like a lot of those would be considered like more historical like competitions.
Oh yeah,
you know?
oh yeah. That's the thing about strongman is it is the father of all strength sports, more or less. Everything comes out from that, and it originally just started as like a circus sideshow kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's real cool.
Yeah, it is very neat stuff to learn the history of.
Mm-hmm. Back to the movie, though. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say about the movie?
I don't know. I had fun with it. I think after talking about it, I think I would even watch it again.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know,
watch it with Nina.
or like purposefully watch it again. That is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was enjoyable. I thought it was just a fun time.
Yeah,
I'm pleased.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of want to watch it again just so I can see if there's more references that I didn't catch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's so many little things that can be picked up on.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to like really kind of keep track of it all. But when I was watching through a second time, I was like, for the first part of the movie, I was like really trying to pay attention to like every little thing. But then the rest, I was like, I want to play Dead by Daylight and watch the rest of this. And so that's what I did.
Man, I watch so much stuff while playing games.
Yeah.
I don't absorb as much as I should, but it's a good way to watch things.
Depending on what you're watching, yeah. There are some things that like you just don't need to fully pay attention to it.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what Becca does most of the time while we're watching Star Trek.
That's
yeah. She has a couple of particular like puzzle games on her phone and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have a hard time. Like, if I'm watching a movie in a theater, is really the only time that I can like sit down and watch something, and that's like my only focus.
Yeah,
it's a nice enveloping experience. It's hard to not give attention.
I've been trying really hard for the last few months to retrain myself to focus just on one thing when I'm watching movies or TV shows and stuff like that, because I fear for my attention span and the way that it has changed over the last several years. And I really don't want it to get shorter, because I feel like I'm finding myself like remembering things less, which is most likely related to a different set of issues that I have, but I don't like it. So I'm trying to like retrain myself to just pay attention to one thing.
I feel that.
That's valid. Yeah.
So, you know, if you get the impression that I'm just better than you in the future, that's why.
Speaking of paying attention to only one thing, I think that's all we have to say about the movie.
I think
I think so too.
What are we watching next time? What's the plan?
Oh, shoot. I meant to ask you guys about this before we started.
What order do we want to...
wouldn't have this moment. So, do we want to...
Our first one last time was Friday the 13th, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Because it was going to land on Friday the 13th. It was going to land on Saturday the 14th.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, we released it a day early so that it would release on Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
That's true. So we have...
I don't think we have the opportunity to do that this time, do we?
We don't.
No.
Sad.
So I guess we may as well open up with Nightmare Friday Halloween.
Are we doing the same order of like Jeff first, then you, then Nina, or?
That's a great question.
We can shuffle
think
it
we're
around
gonna-
if we want.
I'm not gonna put Nina on the spot, but I think she definitely wants to do Nightmare 2 more than she would want to do Halloween.
Oh no, you know what?
Okay.
Last time we did Halloween first, and then Friday the 13th.
Oh, our Halloween stretch
We did
was
Halloween
in
on
November.
Halloween, and then the 6 weeks of Halloween was October into November.
Okay, so do we want to start with Halloween 2, Electric Boogaloo?
Or do we want to?
No, we can save
Do we wanna
Halloween for
build
the end of
to
October.
that? 'Cause what,
Yeah,
this
let's
will be
build to
coming out
Halloween.
on the 18th, which means
Okay.
then we'll have
Yeah, this-
episodes on the 2nd, the 16th, and then the 30th.
Yeah, so either Friday or Nightmare, then the other. So Jeff, you want to go first? Or you want to go second?
I have no preference.
Sounds to me like we're doing Friday first, boy.
All right, and it's me. Friday
It is
the
you.
13th, part 2, the one where Jason shows up.
The boy's in
Baghead
it.
The
Jason.
boy,
Baghead
The boy's
You've
in
seen
this
it.
one.
and he wears a
Oh my
burlap sack
God.
on his head.
Wait, what about his mask?
That doesn't happen
that's
until
Friday
the third
3,
one.
Emma.
What the
You gotta wait a
fuck?
full year for that one.
It is just a series full of disappointments, isn't it? At
It
first,
is.
it's like, oh, I want Jason,
I'm
but
never
he's
gonna
not
like
here. And then
this
it's like,
series.
okay, so we've got Jason, but he doesn't look the way he's supposed to.
Yep, that's annoying.
But
Okay.
Emma, don't worry.
Well,
Jason's mom wears the mask.
Oh.
If Jason's mom makes any sort of appearance in this movie, I'm throwing my computer out a window.
You don't want to commit to that.
Not spoilers, but
Just so you know, start saving for your new computer, I guess.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all so much for joining us on this episode of the podcast. This, our 1-year anniversary episode. We hope you've enjoyed the podcast for the first year, and hopefully we'll keep doing it and just having fun with it,
Yeah.
and not taking ourselves too seriously.
yeah.
But as always, you can find the podcast on Twitter at Casual Horror Pod or on Facebook as Casual Obsession, but I don't think
No,
we
Casual
really
Horror
ever
Pod.
do anything with that. Okay, Casual Horror Pod. And then you can find me, Emma, on Twitter and Twitch at Emma Panada. Twitch, I stream TTRPG stuff.
Nice.
So yay. What about you guys?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You can find me as Bubba the Bad, BUBBADABAD, on Twitch, Twitter, and Insta, where we also be talking about movies. This is a good season for movies. I'm very excited to watch a lot of the things in theaters right now. We got Malignant, which is apparently really campy.
I've heard it's really
James
bad.
Wan, right?
I've heard it's
Yeah.
very bad, and I've heard it's very good. So I'm very
It's on
excited.
That is
HBO.
about how most James Wan movies go. So
A theory that's floating around is because he made so much money with Aquaman, they just kind of let him do whatever he wanted, and this is what he came up with. So
they were doing that with him before, but okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a good time to be watching movies.
Yeah.
Is there
That's
a
true.
spooky doll in Malignant? Do you know?
No,
No.
there's
I'll
an
put
imaginary
money on
friend.
it. There, I bet
A
there
creepy
is.
imaginary friend. Jeff, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at BubbaWubbadab, and you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at the Hammer of Jeff.
Nice. Love it. Cool. Well, and then Nina you can find on Twitter at Nina Wolverina, or House Usher Rises for her horror related content. And then she streams sometimes at twitch.com/Nina Wolverina.
Yeah.
And she does art stuff. But with all of that out of the way, again, thank you all for listening. Stay safe and stay spooky.